or when we have a moment. But right now, we've got to get to the junior senator from Tennessee and Laurel native. That's probably the best title we can give you today. Senator Marsha Blackburn joins us. Senator, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to talk to you, and you probably have noticed, like the rest of us, there's an election coming up on Tuesday. And despite the fact that you're a senator in Tennessee, you still keep an eye on Mississippi, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do. I absolutely keep an eye on Mississippi. I love all of my family that lives in Mississippi. You've got some great folks down there that are in public service. And, you know, Stephen Palazzo down there on the coast, have the opportunity to work with him a good bit on issues relative to our U.S. military. Roger Wicker chairs the Commerce Committee where I sit. And this week we were grilling all of those big tech CEOs. And of course, Cindy Hyde-Smith, who is running in this election season and is going to be on the ballot on Tuesday. And she does a tremendous job for the state. She's on the Appropriations Committee and on the Ag Committee, and really has quite a voice on those agriculture issues and on rural Mississippi, getting resources out to them for broadband, looking after the community, the farm community and all.
Well, and that race is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because we have a lot of money pouring into Mississippi from outside of the state on behalf of her challenger, former Secretary of Agriculture Mike Espy. This has become a more fierce battle than I think a lot of us thought it might be. Just as late as a few weeks ago, it really seems to be picking up steam, and they're targeting this race for an opportunity to flip control of the Senate. What are your thoughts on how this is playing out?
I think Mississippians are pretty smart. You know, they know what the Democrats would do if they were elected. They would take those tax dollars that Mississippi sends to Washington, D.C., and other tax dollars, and what would they do? They would use them to bail out the big blue states and blue cities that have mismanaged their funds, that have not done what Mississippi has done, and been very careful with their money. We also know that what they want to do is to build up a farm team, elect people at the local level and at the state house and state senate level, and begin to try to push forward a liberal agenda, which is, you know, it's one of those classic battles, which Ronald Reagan was so great in defining. Are you going to side with freedom, or are you going to side with socialism? Are you going to side with individuals having freedom and opportunity, or are you going to side with giving government all of your freedoms and letting government define your opportunities? And this is the way the left has laid out their agenda for this cycle. What type of America do you want? And I'm voting for one that is going to protect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all of our freedoms. I am voting for more opportunity for everybody. I am voting for having a government that stays out of the way and lets people achieve their version of the American dream. I'm voting for economic prosperity, like the numbers we saw yesterday with the 33.1% economic growth. What I am not going to vote for is a group that wants to take away from you your private health insurance. 153 million Americans and 57 million Medicare enrollees would lose their health insurance under the Biden-Harris proposal. It's Bernie Sanders' health care plan. And of course, Kamala Harris supports that. She is ranked by GovTrack as the most liberal member of the U.S. Senate. She's more liberal than Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And they would take away your health insurance and they would put you into a pool, a government-run system with everybody that is in Medicaid, and then you wouldn't have a doctor at all. You would have a bureaucrat that you were talking to about health care. They're going to, if they get control, abolish the Electoral College, expand the Supreme Court, remove the Trump tax cuts. And those tax cuts and those opportunity zone dollars have been great for Mississippi. So this is the difference. You know, people can make their choice of what kind of future they would like to have. I'm going to be voting for freedom and prosperity, free people, free markets.
And that's why a race like the race between Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith and Mike Espy is so important, because if what I think a lot of us don't want to have happens, and Joe Biden wins the presidential election next Tuesday, and the Democrats hold on to the House, we have to hold on to the Senate to have some sort of check and balance in this entire process and have the opportunity to slow down or stop some of these things. That's why holding on to every single conservative seat in the Senate that we can is so important during this election.
It is vitally important. And yes, absolutely. This is a seat that we have to retain. And Mississippi has to retain their congressional seats. They have to retain this Senate seat. And they have to make certain they send a message to the left. Look at all the money that is coming from Hollywood to help elect Mike Espy. And it's amazing to me the amount of money that is pouring into that great big campaign war chest for him. And, you know, he likes to sit there and talk about Reagan and Thad Cochran. He was not philosophically aligned with Ronald Reagan and with Thad Cochran. And I think that people need to realize that. If he were in Washington, D.C., he would be required to vote in lockstep with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. That's what all the Democrats are doing. All voting against Justice Barrett, all voting against additional COVID relief. Every single one of them. They've had two opportunities to support additional relief so that we could go to conference with the House. They won't do it. They'd rather have the issue.
Senator, can you hang on for just a moment through the break?
Just a moment, yes.
Just a moment, Bandad, just for a second, because I do want to expand on that a bit more. Senator Marsha Blackburn with us here on the JT Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We continue that conversation. Right now, we do have the senator back, Senator Marsha Blackburn. And Senator, right before the break, we were talking about the influence that is coming in from outside the state. We have someone on the C Spire text line, a mailman in North Mississippi, up close to your neck of the woods, that says the Democratic Party is spending a ton of money on our Senate seat. I'm delivering almost 10-to-1 political ads for Espy. The amount of money that they're spending is outrageous, but it's hard to believe, speaking to what you were talking about with how he will vote if elected, well, that's part of the implied contract there. They spend all the money to get him in, and he's expected to do what they want him to do, right?
Well, I think that what Mississippians want to have is a senator who is going to think Mississippi first. And I have to tell you, it has been so disappointing to us to see the Democrats vote in lockstep in the Senate. Every one of them voted against Justice Barrett. When it came to the legislation we have twice put on the floor, every single one of them voted no. And that would have been another round of PPP funding. It would have been a plus up of $300 per week in unemployment insurance, liability protection, so that companies and factories and businesses can get back to work, and money for vaccines testing in schools. Now, what we were doing in that bill, that was about a $600 billion bill. And we were repurposing $350 billion that was left over from the CARES Act. Now, most people look at that and say, hey, that's the wise thing to do. If there's money in the pipeline and it's not being spent in one place, put it another place. Every dollar the federal government spends is a taxpayer, a hard-working taxpayer earned dollar. And Mississippians, like Tennesseans, expect of me, it is to be a wise steward of those dollars, to make certain that they're going to go to meet a defined need, that expenses are going to be focused and targeted, and that we're not going to waste money. and to have legislation that would put all sorts of money to bailing out states that have mismanaged their pensions, that have not managed their budgets, that have run up enormous debts. That is not the responsibility of the federal government with tax dollars, taxpayer money that is going into the federal treasury. Reconciling that debt is the responsibility of the citizens of that state. Mississippi doesn't want to be paying for New York's debt. They don't want to be paying for California's debt. They want to be focused on Mississippi. How are you going to take care of the state? How are you going to increase opportunity going forward? What kind of businesses are you going to bring? How are you going to manage the funds that are coming into the state?
Exactly. And it's become obvious that any further stimulus package that the Democratic Party would throw their weight behind is going to be chock full of pork and things that don't relate to the pandemic problem that it's trying to solve, or at least is purported to solve. There's more money for the pork than there is for the actual stimulus, from what I've seen.
Yes, that is correct. And see, the bill that we have twice put on the Senate floor that meets the things that people have said, this is where you need to target your expenditures. Vaccines, testing, getting schools open and keeping them open, liability protection so people can get back to work, then a plus up in unemployment for good hardworking people that lost their job through no fault of their own, helping to bridge them so that they're back to a company, and a lot of those companies need another round of PPP funding. They got through the first hurdle, and they're looking at a second hurdle, and they're saying, we could use one more push. Cindy Hyde-Smith has voted for every bit of that. So has Roger Wicker. They have voted for our Republican bills. And here's the little secret the Democrats don't want to tell you. You can't go to conference with the Democrats in the House until you pass a bill in the Senate. So if the Democrats are going to block even getting on the bill to discuss it, they're not looking for a solution. They want to keep the issue, keep people locked in their houses, out of work, and kids out of school.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work in Washington. We appreciate it.
Delighted with you. Thank you so much.
News up next. Then former Secretary of State Eric